Gentleman from Texas is recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the gentlelady for yielding, and I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection.
I rise in support of the rule. The rule is non-controversial, but the bill itself, the bill to expand NATO and the foreign aid involved in it, is controversial from my viewpoint. It may not be controversial here in Washington, but if you go outside of Washington and talk to the people who pay the bills and the people who have to send the troops, they find this non-controversial. They think that we're taken for saps as we go over and extend our sphere of influence throughout the world, and now extending into Eastern Europe. I too was a friend of Jerry Solomon. We came into the Congress together in 1978. And one thing for sure that Jerry understood very clearly was the care that we must give to expanding our influence as well as sacrificing our sovereignty, because he was strongly opposed to the United Nations. As chairman of the Rules Committee, he would permit my amendment to come up and at least debate the effectiveness of belonging to the United Nations. So I have fond memories of Jerry, especially in his support in my efforts to try to diminish the United Nations influence and the taking away of our sovereignty. And this is one reason why I do oppose NATO. I believe that it has a bad influence on what we do. We want to extend our control over Eastern Europe, and has been pointed out, this can be seen as a threat to the Russians. And the NATO does not have a good record since the fall of the Soviets. Take a look at what we were doing in Serbia. Serbia has been our friends. They're a Christian nation, and we allied ourselves with the KLA, the Kosovo Muslims, who have been friends with Osama bin Laden. And we went in there and illegally, the NATO illegally, against the own rules of NATO, incessantly bombed Serbia. They had not attacked another country. They had a civil war going on. And yet we supported that with our money and our bombs and our troops, and now we're nation building over there, and we may be over there for another 20 years because of the bad policy of NATO that we went along with. And I think we should stop and think about this and instead of expanding NATO, instead of getting ready to send another $55 million that we're authorizing today to the Eastern European countries, we ought to ask, has it really served the interests of the United States? And now that's old-fashioned to talk about the interests of the United States. We're supposed to only talk about the interests of internationalism, globalism, one world government. That to talk about the interests of the United States in this city is seen as being very negative. I would say if you talk about U.S. security in the United States of America and our own defense around the country, it's very popular. Thank you.
Time of the gentleman has expired.